Hey y'all, Coach Inthefight here, guys. Stacy with me.
Hello.
And in today's video, we're going to be talking about the abstention of eating bread until we make our first fruits offering.
Okay.
We're looking at Leviticus 23. Getting an understanding of what it's talking about down there in about verse 14. But let's start up at about verse 10 because we're going to talk about first fruits and what it all means. But we're going to end up talking about, like we said, the abstention from eating bread. We're not supposed to eat bread until these certain other things are to take place.
Okay.
Read it. You want to start at verse 10?
Speak to the Israelites and say to them, when you enter the land I am going to give you, and you reap its harvest, bring to the priest a sheaf of the first grain you harvest.
Okay. So now the first grain that you harvest after you've received this land, you ought to bring a sheaf to the priest. Now, this could be like a tenth, but it's a portion of what you're growing, the grain that you've already grown.
Right.
And just as a side note, decided to go over here and look at Leviticus 23 in the interlinear, and we see where it says tenths of an ephah, but it looks like of an ephah is added. It's an added word. So it says 2/10. So that would be 20%. Because the word is Aisharawana, which is a tenth part. So it's paying tithes.
He is to wave the sheaf before the Lord, so it will be accepted on your behalf. The priest is to wave it on the day after the Sabbath.
So this is the 23rd day of the first month. You see, back in 8, it was talking about the 21st day of the month. When it's talking about on the 7th day, there will be a sacred assembly. That would be the last day of the Feast of Unleavened Bread. And then now we're going on to talk about the subsequent feast, which would be the day after the Sabbath day, Nisan 23. That is the day that the priest is supposed to wave this sheaf, this offering before the Lord, so that it is accepted.
All right. On the day you present the sheaf, you ought to offer a year-old male lamb without blemish as a burnt offering to the Lord.
Okay, so this is a lamb that is to be eaten on this day. You see right there it says as a burnt offering. You can see that described over in Leviticus chapter 1. The difference in this one and the Passover, this is a burnt offering. This one, they actually cut it into pieces opposed to leaving it whole. But we're still talking about roasting flesh, so let's go on.
Its grain offering is to be 4 quarts of fine flour mixed with oil as a food offering to the Lord, a pleasing aroma, and its drink offering will be 1 quart of wine.
Now, we're looking here at the CSB version, Christian Standard Version, because I wanted to bring this part out where it's talking about how much it is. So it's 4 quarts of fine flour. That's enough to make how much bread?
That's 32 cups, so it's a lot of bread.
The NIV says 7 pounds. And then as far as the wine, it's 1 quart or 1 liter of wine. That's to be part of this offering. So you have all of that bread to go with all of this lamb. And then you have the wine to go with it. So it's a barbecue. But look at this next verse here. This is the purpose of this class. We want to pay close attention to what it says right here in verse 14.
You must not eat any bread or roasted or new grain until the very day you bring this offering to your God. This will be a lasting ordinance for the generations to come wherever you live.
So in other words, we're supposed to do it forever. But what this is saying is that we are not supposed to eat any bread or any type of grain at all, whether it be roasted or dried or parched or anything, until we make this offering, until we do this thing that is being described here. And you remember we did this one time. We actually went 50 days without eating bread or roasted grain.
Well, you didn't read the complete verse or something?
Yeah, I was going to mention that. I had fully prepared to say that, but yeah, absolutely, it was a misunderstanding on my part. I'll say it. You said it better. I didn't fully understand it. That's what it was saying. It appears that in other translations, one can deduce that you're not supposed to eat the grain at all. But that's why we're looking here, and it was your version of the NIV that brought this out, to where in the NIV it actually says this offering until you bring this offering. Because look what happens when we look at the KJV. It's not all my fault. Self same day that you have brought an offering. So it's like any offering. And the offering that we assumed, going to the next verses, the offering that we assumed, we assumed, meaning it wasn't just me, assumed was the Pentecost offering. We couldn't eat the grain until the Pentecost offering. You hear about that in verse 15, where it starts counting the weeks. And so, but that's not what it's saying. That's not the understanding that I'm getting today. Praise our Father in heaven for his word. But what I'm understanding today is that you can eat grain after you've made this offering. So you present your sheaf to the priest on the day of first fruits. And then on the same day you give him your sheaf. And that's why maybe it's given to you in this manner, where it's not pinpointing the day. You have to do it exactly this day. You're giving some margin of error. Some even did it last week on the 16th. And some will do it after they find out about this verse, so that, no, you're not late, because it doesn't pinpoint the day. But what it's saying is, on the day that you present this sheaf, you are to offer this lamb for a burnt offering, along with this wine and this flour. And looking closely here, it doesn't say that it is to be roasted. You're giving it to the priest. So you have this lamb, this wine, and this bread, and you're giving it to the priest along with your sheaf. So you have whatever is ripe now, the first fruits from the winter time. We take a sheaf of it, a portion of it, a sheath of it, along with a lamb, bread, and wine, and give it to the priest. He's waving the sheaf. I don't guess he's waving the lamb, but he's accepting everything. And so you would have the priest gathering all of this here. This is how he's going to get his herd, his bread, his wine for the year. And then, or for the season, because you'll do the same thing in Pentecost, right before the summer season starts. And then after you've done this, now you could go back to eating bread again. So as you sit there saying, why can't we eat bread? Why can't we have cereal? Why can't we have cake, Mom? Well, we still have to make this offering.
Right.
Is that what you gathered?
Mm-hmm.
You got anything in closing?
So this means that we don't have to wait 50 days until we have pancakes.
Mm-hmm. Right. Exactly. We get it right today, we can have pancakes tomorrow.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And with that, if you got anything out of this video, hit the like button. If you didn't, hit the dislike button. But leave us a comment either way. And Shalawam.
Shalawam.